we can assume that adversaries are already recording the current data which is passing on the internet. And when they get a reasonably sized quantum computer in their hands, they will go to decrypt the data. You need not be a developer. You could be in your operations role, you could be in the marketing role, sales role. You have a problem. You don't want IT to kind of roll out one solution next month after 1 year. You don't want to, and then you went to some AI site. You learned how to kind of write a code, test it out, and you do it. So that's called a citizen development of AI or developing AI agents. Right? I was talking to one of the clients in Hong Kong, and they asked me a question: How many clients have you already migrated to post quantum? And I was like, hello, the journey has just begun.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Build for India series. Today we are joined by Dr. Nagori, who is the founder of QuAi Security Labs, a deep tech startup building a unified platform for cryptographic discovery and AI governance. Dr. Vikalp, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me and giving me opportunity.
Most enterprises treat quantum security and AI security as two separate problems with two separate roadmaps. Now you've built a platform that unifies both of them. So first, I would like to understand from you, why is it that one organization keeps these two apart, and what breaks when these two are kept apart?
All right. So a great question, and I'm glad that you have brought this out. So we envisage that quantum and AI will kind of cross, and it will be a challenge which both has to address each other. So the way we look at it, AI needs power, which quantum computer will provide, and quantum compute needs navigation or direction, which AI will provide. So it's kind of going to converge, and we wanted to address this space with a single product. Now, in terms of the timeline, yeah, the timeline doesn't match though, but then the work required by the enterprises to address the challenges and the risk in both the space starts now. So uh, to talk a little bit on the quantum side, post-quantum, there is a roadmap given by to convert transition until 2029 or 2030. So it's going to take another 3 to 4 years, and the whole ecosystem has to mature. But AI governance, the work starts now because there's a rampant deployment of AI models across the organization, and they have no visibility what has been deployed, what is the data which is, and how to govern, and what is the inventory, and what is the risk posture of it. So timelines do differ, but there is a convergence of AI and quantum, and that's what we are trying to address through a single platform. And both of these are emerging risks. So uh, then there aren't any platform which kind of addresses both together. I mean, there are a platform which is focusing on AI security, something focusing on the quantum side, but since these two are the emerging risks, we wanted to help enterprise by bringing both together in a single platform so that you don't have to deploy multiple products for these emerging risks.
Now, what does a typical enterprise actually find when they run, comprehensive discovery for the first time? And what is it that is very surprising to them so often?
All right. So before I answer your question, let me give some context here. The current day cryptography which we use is more than 2 decades old. Now, this is one. And then other thing, we look at OWASP top 10, which are like the top 10 security risks identified by a global organization. Cryptographic failure appears as a number 4 this year or last year as well. It was number 2 in the previous version. So what it means is, even though the technology is available since more than 2 decades, still cryptographic failures appear as one of the top 10 risks. Now, the reason is nobody's focusing on cryptography. I mean, when I say nobody, I mean, it's kind of a majorly, right? There are advanced organizations who would have focused, but then we're talking about the masses. It is very reactive in nature. So when you're talking about inventorying, the way typically it works is People deploy systems, applications, or they're buying an application and deploying it or using SaaS. Nobody's focusing on cryptography as a standalone subject. So as a part of deployment, they do vulnerability assessment, there's a penetration testing, and it's a very reactive approach. You found some issues, you kind of fix it on the system where you found the issue. But a proactive, pragmatic approach to discover all the cryptography in the organization, in the whole ecosystem, and inventory it and be aware of it, what is used where, is kind of not available, hardly, or maybe with very, very mature organizations. So generally, it's, if you ask, do you have CBOM? They wouldn't say that they have CBOM available.
Understood. A little bit deeper and shift our conversation to shadow AI. Shadow AI is being called the new shadow IT, except the blast radius is a little larger. So what, according to you, are the dangerous forms of shadow AI you're seeing inside enterprises? And why can't traditional security tools really catch them?
Uh, the way it works, right? Today, everybody's so enthusiastic about AI. They just want to put their hands on AI. You think from a development organization perspective, all your developers, testers, your deployers, or operations team in a typical enterprise IT, everybody wants to work on AI. Now, if an organization has not defined their guardrails and special AI, and within this framework we are going to work, what happens? Everybody brings the tools of their choice, whatever they are comfortable with, what they have trained with, or what they're experimenting with, and they just start deploying it. So it becomes kind of a rampant. Enterprise doesn't have a kind of full inventory of what has been deployed, where it has been deployed, what are the use cases they are working on, and what is the data it is getting trained on. That's we are talking about the models deployed within the enterprise. Now, there's another consumer AI wherein we talk about the users and organization who are browsing, right? Now, they think that AI is so cool. They just want to use it, so which is very natural. Now, imagine a sales team who is presenting their sales bid to a client, and they want a very beautiful presentation, and they heard about an AI website, so they kind of put all the proposal into the AI website and then generate a proposal. Beautiful. Now, they didn't realize that the whole data has gone to a third-party website, right? Uh, Intentionally, it was a very good intent. They didn't want to harm anyone, but the result is companies' intellectual property is going into third-party website, which is where they don't have NDA, or probably they haven't signed any enterprise agreement to secure uh, the intellectual property, or the organization is not even aware the prompt or the inputs they have given on the prompt is not used for training the models further, right? So without knowing, without awareness, users are using it. So uh, it's quite natural. It will happen. And the other challenge is, what is a citizen AI development, right? What it means is, with the help of AI, you because AI works as a programmer, you can develop their own programs or solve your problems, right? So now what's happening? You need not be a developer. You could be in your operations role, you could be in marketing role, sales role. You have a problem. You don't want IT to kind of roll out some solution after 6 months, after 1 year. You don't want to be dependent. You went to some AI site, you learned how to kind of write a code, test it out, and you do it. So that's called a citizen development of AI or developing AI agents, right?
Mhm.
Now, all these three things are kind of leading to AI governance challenge, because it's very difficult for an enterprise to control what has been deployed, what is getting used, and what data is kind of flowing there, and how to control. This is one aspect of enterprise knowing it. There's a aspect of compliance. So you mentioned about EU AI Act, or there are several other regulations in the world. Regulators are very serious about it. They want to know, in fact, they would like solutions to be filed if the solutions fall under high risk category with the regulator. Now, of the solution, they don't know what use cases these solutions are used for and what data they are trained on. It's very difficult to comply to regulation. So yeah, long answer to your short question, but it is a challenge. AI governance is a challenge and needs to be addressed right at the policy level, creating a guidance, and it's going to happen. So create a supportive, informed environment for the employees, so that employees are and they are following all the guardrails which needs to be done.
You did mention that regulators are moving fast. There is the EU AI Act, there's the NIST PQC standards, India's own DPTP Act. So I know you mentioned a few things, but what's your take on how prepared are Indian enterprises for the compliance demands that some of these frameworks will impose, on their AI infrastructure and also on their cryptographic infrastructure?
So AI regulations kind of demand setting up governance right away, because they are the deadlines even to file with the regulator, especially when we are talking about EU AI Act, very mature. Not only that, there several other countries have their own regulations, and the regulations are not only the regulations are about, for example, in Europe, you go, there are several countries they have got law in terms to kind of handle employee relations or recruitments or bias and so on culturally. Now, it doesn't refer directly AI, but then indirectly AI is kind of applicable in those scenarios, especially if you are leveraging AI for recruitment or conducting interviews or and so on. Falls under high risk category, and there's a requirement to kind of govern it very tightly. Now, to be answerable to the regulators and also the whole ecosystem. When I say whole ecosystem, it's not just regulators are asking, your clients. Now, clients would ask, are you compliant? It is a very standard question in the RFPs. Um, 20 years back, it started that asking questions about security, about privacy. What are your controls? How do you manage? Now, these days, security certification is kind of a standard. It is expected that you have a security certification or you have privacy controls in place. Similarly, AI controls are kind of expected, and the clients are demanding. Um, do you have ISO, or do you have a certain governance in place? Demonstrate it, right? So regulators are asking any enterprise who's buying a third-party product, especially, they have to ask whether the product they are buying is that doing a conformity assessment, or is this kind of compliant to the regulations, right? So it's a whole ecosystem, right? From regulators, when the regulators start asking, everybody start asking. So the clients, the supplier, and then the whole supply chain, right? So and glad that that's happening, because that will kind of build the whole ecosystem on and seriousness about the governance in terms of defining what is right for the enterprise, and just follow that and comply to it. Now, the second part of your question was on the cryptography. Yeah, so cryptography is kind of not regulated as such, where directly they are asking as of today, but there is a guidance, right? There are executive orders signed by several countries, presidents, and the governments, wherein they would like critical infrastructure to be migrated to post-quantum cryptography. The timelines are like 2029, 2030, and so on. Obviously, the regulators would ask this question: have you started your preparations for migration to PQC? Today, they will not ask, because it is understood that enterprises are kind of starting to engineer or preparing for it, and then by the time they migrate, it takes a long time to, because it's not just an enterprise, it's a whole supply chain. Your vendors, your suppliers have to migrate, your customers have to migrate, and then the whole thing will work. So It will take time, and regulators would definitely ask, how's your preparation? How are you progressing? I mean, they will try to understand whether your program is on or not. But in terms of the executive order, in terms of the governments, yes, governments have given a direction that they would expect enterprises to be kind of secure or migrated to post-cryptography by 2029 to 2030, at least, and beginning with the critical infrastructure. Now, if to achieve that, all the enterprises need is to prepare now. It cannot be done without knowing what you have in terms of the cryptography currently. And the second challenge is knowing your data. And the reason is we say harvest now, decrypt later, which means we can assume that adversaries are already recording the current data which is passing on the internet. And when they get a reasonably sized quantum computer in their hands, they will go to decrypt the data, right? So what an enterprise needs to do is to prioritize deployment of or migration to post-quantum cryptography, where the data is very sensitive. Now, the data sensitivity changes with the confidential forever. Some data is confidential for today, but may not be tomorrow, right? But certain data, for example, biometric information of individuals, is confidential. I mean, there's no time duration attributed to it. So what is important for enterprises is to also have a kind of a visibility of what data they have and classify the sensitivity or classification of data's requirement for maintaining the confidentiality, right? If a data needs to be maintained confidential for the next 1 year, probably they don't have to prioritize now, because it is expected that quantum computers reasonably sized would be available, say 2020. Uh, migration of cryptography on the data, which is going to hold its confidentiality beyond 3 to 5 years, right? So that's where they have to prioritize. So both things goes together. One, build an inventory of cryptography, what is that you have, so that you can start addressing it. Also have a visibility on the data and which data needs protection of confidentiality beyond 3 to 5 years, and that data needs to be prioritized for protection.
Now, I know at the beginning you mentioned this, but I want to ask you this, that you're supported by NVIDIA's Inception program, AWS, Microsoft for Startups. You've recently joined Nasscom's Deep Tech Club, right? So as an Indian deep tech startup operating in the security space, taken, really seriously by such big global enterprise buyers in this category. And while this category is still being defined, right? So you've got those three big names backing you. So uh, how does it feel? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so this kind of helps in giving an assurance that the startup is very serious. It has been evaluated by list, the technologies they are bringing in, the product they're developing is kind of reasonably required in the market, or it's kind of validated, at least theoretically, right? But still, in our case, these challenges are twofold. One is the space we are trying to address itself is new. The AI governance is kind of a relatively new subject. Post-quantum cryptography migration is also a new subject. In fact, it requires a lot of awareness, even though there's several, when we talk to them about, hey, this is the product we are bringing into migrate into post-quantum cryptography, and they ask, we are not using quantum computers, so why do we need it, right? So basically it needs an awareness that you don't have to use quantum computer. Adversaries using quantum computers. But then so what I was talking about, the challenges, one, in our case, we have to educate our clients on the topics that these are required, right? So we have to first create a demand for it. The demand is not naturally there. It's not a commodity product, but there's already a demand and we just go and sell it. And the second is we have to give an assurance that our product works. I was talking to one of the clients in Hong Kong, and they asked me a question: how many clients have you already migrated to post-quantum? And it's like, hello, the journey has just begun, right? So if you ask me all the names where we have already migrated, if the vendor will have it. But then yes, there's a challenge in terms of kind of giving an assurance that our product works, and we help really helps few clients. And right now it's such a new topic. We have to kind of get an assurance from the peers, or maybe evaluate it from the peers and say, hey, yes, this product works, and it's going to address the challenges. So we have to work on both sides. We have to create an awareness, we have to create demand, as well as we need to address the assurance kind of a problem.
I think you're already on the track. You've already got the attention from the three big ones. So wish you great luck.